Since the beginning of organized warfare, military leaders have struggled with the issue of how to feed their troops. This is 5 things you don't know about rations.
Yep, I'm liking it. Looking forward to the chili too.
We got him moving. We're going back to bus stop.
Modern ration research began in 1936 with the founding of the Subsistence Research Laboratory at the Quartermaster Depot in Chicago. Working with the American food industry, the lab's focus was to develop rations that met 4 key criteria: nutritional adequacy, storage stability, military functionality, and sensory acceptability, also known as pleasing taste and smell. Well, with America's sudden entry into World War II in December of 1941, the pressing need to mass-produce rations quickly that could be shipped to every corner of the globe meant that the first 3 criteria, nutrition, stability, and functionality, quickly took precedence, while that last criteria, taste, took the back seat. As a result, troops serving during World War II complained en masse about the rations that they were forced to eat. In fact, complaints were so overwhelming that in 1944 the government established the Food Acceptance Research Branch, specifically to deal with the issue of making rations taste better. Government contracts to produce food for military rations proved extremely lucrative for many manufacturers during World War II. Hormel Foods, producer of the now iconic Spam luncheon meat, was one of those companies. In 1942, Hormel began producing ingredients for the newly developed K-rations. By 1944, more than 90% of the company's canned foods were shipped for government use. And by early 1945, 60% of all Hormel products were consumed by U.S. troops in the European and Pacific theaters. In fact, the legacy of these World War II rations is still visible today. On islands like Guam, Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, you can walk in any grocery store and still find a wide variety of Spam flavors, including many that are produced specifically for that market. During the Vietnam War, ground troops were often in the field for days or weeks at a time. As a result, almost every Vietnam veteran had extensive experience cooking and eating what they called C rations, the individual canned meals that included a meat unit, a bread unit, and a dessert unit. But while these canned foods were almost universally referred to as C rations, they were actually what was known as MCIs, or Meal Combat Individual Rations. Introduced in 1958 as a replacement to the World War II-era C rations, MCIs featured several new menu items that were meant to reduce monotony and encourage the troops to eat the entire ration, thereby consuming all of its calories. In practice, however, MCIs were, at best, a modest improvement over their predecessors. In fact, they looked and tasted so similar to the old C rations that the name stuck. In 1986, the MRE, or Meal Ready to Eat, became the first non-canned standard issue field ration. In addition to being lightweight, MREs also contained an expanded array of quality of life items, like toilet paper, moist towelette, chewing gum, a book of matches, and each one of these little packets also contained a tiny bottle of Tabasco sauce. Tabasco is produced by the family-owned McElhaney Company, and the company's former president, Walter Stoufel McElhaney, was the executive officer of B Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division during World War II. McElhaney saw combat in the Pacific and was awarded the Navy Cross for action with the enemy during fighting on Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands on August 27, 1942. Of course, Captain McElhaney was known to his troops by his nickname, Tabasco Mac.
You know, get really close to him. Give me an out, and we'll take it all up.
Today, researchers at the Natick Soldier Research Development and Engineering Center, the modern evolution of the former Subsistence Research Laboratory, are working to create completely redesigned rations for future use. Referring to this new food as future general-purpose operational rations, current concepts include tailoring rations to specific parts of the world and producing food with 3D printers. Our current inventory of MREs includes 24 different entrees, as well as about 150 additional items like coffee, candy, and condiments. But while the quality of MREs has greatly improved since their introduction, they weren't always considered particularly palatable. Early versions elicited such disgust that they earned nicknames like meals rarely edible or meals rejected by the enemy. Do you have any favorite nicknames for what you called your rations? If so, post your comment online or reach out to us through Twitter using hashtag 5thingsyouDon'tKnow.